Right, so in front of you, I guess you'd have the DPW budget, which includes Public Works, Cemetery, Water and Sewer, Rubbish Enterprise, and Landfill Enterprise. So we can go through them relatively quickly. The DPW budget, you'll see level funded is very close to identical to last year. Like within $1,000 of identical to last year's, a little bit increase in wages, but not what much. The wage increase is only includes step increases for the union employees. This is the last year of our union agreement, and so it did not include any raises for either my staff or the DPW union staff, so there's no raises at all in here. I don't anticipate there being a contract settlement by the time town meeting comes around. I'd be shocked. We haven't started negotiations yet, so that probably won't change. DPW superintendent and clerk's salary, I generally just leave them as same as they were the year before, and between Michael and the accounting department, they adjust based on whatever the personnel board decides. The big item, I guess, in this DPW level service budget, if you go down, I think that fuel tank pump is a typo. That should be 100,000, not 110. But the DPW miscellaneous expense increased by $50,000. And the reason why is we are in our second year of the new stormwater regulations. The first year we were already doing pretty much everything that we were required to do, but every year moving forward, our requirements get more and more stringent. So this year we have to do dry weather monitoring and sampling of all of our drainage outfalls. So everywhere a drain pipe dumps out into a river, we have to do some screening, we have to test it, and if we test it and something comes up positive, we gotta chase it back through the system until we can find where they call it an illicit discharge. So if somebody's dumping something they shouldn't be in the system, we have to go out and find it and either correct it if it's our issue or make the property owner or business correct it. So what happens is this year we have to do a quarter of our system. So 25% of all the outfalls that we have to inspect and test. If there's, you do it in the dry weather, so if there's nothing coming out, there's nothing to test, but if there is something coming out, then you gotta test. So
Chris, will this be done by your staff or by outside people?
more than likely, most of it will be done by consultant. I am waiting on a price, so that $50,000 is an estimate at this time, and I doubt it'll go up, but it might go down a little bit. But I'm waiting on a price from the consultant to do that 25%. It's a little bit tough because you don't know how much sampling you're going to have to do, because you don't know how many of the outfalls are going to have water or other stuff coming out of them. So, but it's going to get worse. You know, for sure, the new stormwater regulations are difficult, and there's a lot of stuff in the future that we're going to have to be doing, which will include, betterments to our drainage system, like adding in detention basins at places like the DPW yard or the police station or the fire department. So they're going to force us pretty much to make improvements to improve the stormwater discharge.
Any grants for this kind of stuff?
It's every single town has to do it, so it's right now I don't believe there's any grants for it at all that I know of.
So is there a specific set of skills you have to do to test it? Why can't we use our current staff?
Well, we possibly can. I mean, we might be able to do that. You still got all the testing. Testing, we can't do the testing itself. We could take the sample, but not the testing, right? But again,
Right,
every
like
time you got a guy going around taking samples all around town, he's not doing something else also. So, it's not that we're short-staffed, but it's one less thing that one less person we're going to have out there to do other stuff too. So, I mean, it's a possibility for sure. Yeah.
Excuse me, Chris, on the DPW wages, you said your contract is up this year, meaning June 30th?
June 30th is the end of the union contract. We actually had like a 6-year agreement, so we've had an agreement in place for quite some time, but the new negotiations will be starting shortly. So.
What's ballpark, and what was the average increase for the 6 years?
trying to think, maybe 1.5% or something like that is what I think they came out to, be my guess.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm all set with that budget. Move
All
on,
right.
Chris.
Cemetery budget is, we can live with the same amount of money we had last year. We did have a longtime employee retired, so he'll be replaced with a new employee, which is why the wages have dropped there. I recommend that we use that $10,000 in cemetery miscellaneous and use that for tree removal. We're always behind on tree removal. We've literally, since I've been here, we've never had a completed list. And people call in all the time, we're adding trees, so I mean, we get through trees, but we generally speaking, you know, could use that money to catch up for sure. We don't do any, you know, drive around just looking for trees that are dead or dying. I mean, if I see a tree that's completely dead, I'll mark it down and we'll take it down, but we don't look for them. We have plenty of trees on the list to eat up our budget, so we could always use money on the tree removal for sure.
Okay, I'm all set with that budget. Move on.
Water sewer enterprise is, again, it's pretty near identical to what it was. You'll see the big difference on these budgets is down at capital outlay. I'm bumping it up from 600,000 to 300,000, and I'm suggesting that we use retained earnings for that $300,000. We have plenty of retained earnings from last year that we can use that $300,000. And what I need that money for, and I'll need additional money on top of that, a few borrowing articles, is on top of new stormwater regulations, we have new sewage infiltration regulations. The state and the EPA is requiring, where in the past we kind of relied on developers to come in and fix any infiltration problems we had. If they were doing a development, they had to fix 4 gallons of leakage for every gallon they were adding into the system. So basically, if there was a new subdivision going in, there would be an actual net, you know, less sewerage going through the system because they had to do repairs to fix this stuff. Well, now the EPA, they're not allowing towns just to rely on development. So we have to go out. We're going to have to spend about $600,000 next year. On top of, we probably spent about $300,000 in the past year and a half, cammering and flow metering our entire sewer system to isolate where the biggest problems are in the sewer system and to start fixing them. And if we don't have developers to fix them, the town's going to have to start paying and fixing them ourselves. So next year, which is kind of shocking to me, they're making us do, we're doing ones called sub-basin. We have like 8 different sub-basins that we had monitored in the past year. So we basically broke the system up into 8 segments, and we're right now, we're just starting to look at the worst of those segments. And then when we got our letter back from the EPA on the first round of requirements, they said, we want you to do 5 more next year. So we have to do basically 6 of our 8 areas in the first year and a half, which I was pretty shocked that they made us do that. So we are going to have to borrow some money to do that study and then kind of look at the results and see what we got. And you know, sometimes you can take some low-hanging fruit and fix stuff that have like big leaks with small problems, and you can kind of keep ahead of the game a little bit before they come down on you. So it's going to be a long process. They're not going to expect us to be fixing all these problems immediately, but over time, we're going to have to commit money every year to be able to fix some of these problems. So.
And what are you basically talking about, reviewing the infiltration and then working your way back? Is that
Yeah. They're basically we do flow monitoring and cammering at night, and they basically go out and just look at the entire system. So we're gonna be cammering about 21,000 feet of pipe this spring, just looking for problems. And so what happens is that you go to the worst area first and you make repairs, and as money becomes available. So the further you go out into the process, it takes a lot more to repair a similar amount of infiltration. But as you get further out in the process, you've repaired a lot of it, so the EPA will probably back off a little bit, because if you're making repairs year after year after year, you know, your infiltration and your problems at the sewage plant kind of get lower and lower, so they're not gonna be as on top. A lot of times it's keeping ahead of your neighbors too, you know? If we do a little bit better than what our neighbors are doing, then, you know, we kind of can fly under the radar, which is, we've done that on the stormwater, and, you know, they think we do a great job with it, and we do keep right up on top of it, but we'll, we do have, again, our debt, which I've told you year after year, is getting very close on the filtration plant. We have about $500,000 of debt. We have 2 more payments on that's $500,000 a year. So this year coming up, FY20, FY21, and we free up about $500,000 a year in money. So that's out of $2.6 million. It's substantial. So that money we can use to do some of the sewer infiltration instead of borrowing. And we have 1 more year of rate increases that we'd increased 3 years at 3%. So FY20 will be the last of those 3 years. So then we'll have to decide if we want to do another 3% or decide what we want to do, because we will have that extra kind of flexibility with the loans expiring.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, you said there's 21,000 feet that you're going to inspect. How many feet are there in the entire system?
There's 50 miles, 250,000.
And at some point, they're going to inspect the whole
Pretty much, yeah.
250,000?
Well, they're not gonna make us go to like the Fox Run neighborhoods place, because there's really no infiltration there. So you know, they're all new plastic pipes, so areas like that we don't have to concentrate on. But really, our town is probably 80% is old pipe, clay pipe, and
So
so.
80% of the 250 is what they're going to
Yeah,
inspect?
yeah, it's a lot.
And over how many years going forward do you think it'd take to mitigate that?
Oh, we'll be dealing with this 20 years at least, fixing problems. I mean, some of the pipe, it's old, it's in the ground, it all still works fine. You know, you end up with root problems and different issues, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have infiltration in all the pipe. You know, you're never gonna get rid of all the infiltration. You just get rid of, you know, if we can get rid of 75% of it, we're doing fantastic. You know, I doubt we'd even ever get to 75%. Then you end up with the next problem when you fix all of that problem. Right now we have infiltration, which is basically water and groundwater coming into the system, and it actually helps push the sewage along and keeps the sewer pipes cleaner. So now when you fix all that, you know, you get down to having more problems with backups, and so it's a catch-22, but it's required, so we have to do it.
So we're basically looking at $500,000 for the next 20 years.
It could be, yeah.
Inflated.
Hopefully a little less, but yeah, it wouldn't
Okay.
be a stretch to say that much money, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, the plan has been, is when the filtration plant comes off, that we start investing in more repair. But again, this all started when we set the water rates and people stopped using as much water. So we did
Yeah.
have a real plan, and it.
I mean, we're down to, right now, we've had years where our allowable amount of usage from the MWRA before they start charging us is 800 million gallons. And years ago, it was before my time, not far before my time, the town went over the 800 million. This year, we used 501 million gallons of water. So, and some of that is, you know, repairing leaks, and the system is much better than it was back then, but it's 300 million gallons less, so it's that much less revenue that you get into, so, yeah.
Correct.
And that's with the added developments in town, too.
That includes, yeah, any added developments. Maybe lost some industry here and there, though, too, so, which reduces.
I'm all set with that budget. Move to the rubbish fund.
The rubbish enterprise is doing well. We had a decent amount of retained earnings, about $150-something thousand in retained earnings, which is good. So that last round of increases that we did about a year ago now is keeping us in good shape on the rubbish enterprise. So I don't think we'll need to increase any rates. The only thing, and again, it's very similar to the previous year, the only thing I'm thinking I might do is add a little bit, because we just got these retained earning numbers in a week or so ago, is under the compactor maintenance, which is where we do our lease payments and repairs to any of the equipment, and repairs to, you know, we buy the recycle bins, stuff like that out of that. But I'm gonna add $25,000 of that, spend the money out of retained earnings, because our oldest rubbish truck, we just did get a brand new rubbish truck in last week, which is great. And our oldest truck right now, it could use some TLC, some body work, and if we spend maybe about 25,000 on it this year, we'll be able to get quite a bit more years out of that, so. So I'll probably add 25 to that line item from 120 to 145, but it'll be retained earnings, and it's really not, doesn't affect the general budget at all.
Okay, let's move to the enterprise fund.
Then we got the landfill enterprise fund, which is,
So my understanding there's $9 million in that fund today. Is that it?
well, that's.
Does it include the
that's-
money to repair it?
I believe that number, and Diane and I have to go over this, but I believe that number includes, we set aside money 2 years ago at town meeting, about $3.3 million for what's called the reserve fund, which is the money to do the repair and the cap. But this town meeting, we have to set aside another $2 million, so that has to get set aside.
For repairs?
Additional for the cap, for the landfill cap and the pond dredge. So out of that 9, 2.3 or 4 has got to be set aside, so.
Okay.
So the question is we'll have another article like we did at the other town meetings to transfer money out of the landfill into the stabilization fund, the infrastructure. We're also gonna have an article, because we thought we did this last year, but we had an article that it was basically special legislation to allow the town to use that money for non-landfill related work. So the state has approved that, but in the approval, they said you have to go and have a town bylaw established that sets up the protocol on how you spend it. So even though we got approved last year, didn't mean we could spend the money. So now this year, we have to have an article that will set up a bylaw that'll basically set forth the regulations on how it gets spent. But I believe that we could also, at the same time, subject to that getting approved by the state, could budget money for infrastructure improvements at this town meeting, which is what I'm gonna recommend. That we're talking about the downtown project and a couple of other projects, and, set aside some money for paving. I don't know if any other department have issues too, but my recommendation is we start budgeting some of that money and start using it.
How many more years are we gonna run the landfill up there?
I'm guessing about 3 more years. This year will be by far the highest revenue this fiscal year. So on top of that 9 this year, there's a lot more coming, so
Okay.
it's a lot. The only thing I'm looking for this year probably is, I might have a couple of articles. Most of the articles, we talked about the sewer stuff. I'm gonna have a couple of articles on other water-related stuff. The only thing I'm looking for is probably a few $100,000 on some drainage improvements, which, in my opinion, we should use the infrastructure money for stuff like that. But I do think we are gonna be in need of another 1-ton truck. I have $65,000 in here right now, but what I'm thinking about, and I'm waiting on a price right now, is to get a attachment on the 1-ton truck for a catch basin cleaner. Right now, our catch basin cleaner is very old, it works, but it's not overly reliable. But I saw they make them now on 1-ton dump trucks, which would be really convenient. You could really get around quick, and so I'm getting a price on that, so that number might bump up a little bit.
Okay.
That's about it.
So did we talk about paving at all? Did I miss it in a different meeting? Because I'm just curious what we're doing to start to fix some more of the roads.
Well, that's what I'm thinking that infrastructure stabilization fund should be used for. If we're gonna end up having, we could end up having at the end of, after this town meeting, we could have, I think we've set aside 3.5 million we put in it right now. We probably put another 4 in. So we might have in the order of $7 to $8 million available. So that's what has to be decided on what I want to put. If we're going to be using that money, and if the select board and the finance committee say yes, let's put some articles on there. I'd like to get Berlin Road needs to be redone, and I want to get Greeley Street, and both of those roads I think need sidewalks and curbing. And then maybe we could set aside some additional money to supplement our Chapter 90 money to do some side roads. More side roads than we normally do.
There are a lot of roads in this town that really need
Absolutely, without a
to be
doubt.
paved, and so I didn't know if we had some
Yeah.
type of
I mean, we
strategic
got
plan to
the
talk
High
about
Street
paving.
project that's getting designed too, so that's gonna be a decent chunk of change. And then, like I said, I think Greeley Greeley needs to be done, and we have drainage issues on Greeley that I want to address at the same time. And Berlin Street is, if we don't get Berlin Street done very soon, we're going to end up having to right now, I think we could mill and overlay most of it, which saves you a ton of money. That was done, I mean, Albufaro did it probably 15 or 18 years ago, I'm guessing. But if we don't redo that road very soon, it's gonna end up costing twice as much money. So I personally think that probably at the top of my priority. My guys are out there, and you would never know they're even there, unfortunately, but they're probably there twice a week patching that road. And as soon as you patch it, it just comes right back up again. The top course of pavement's just coming off. So we mill that off, we put in some curbing, some sidewalks, and it's a nice main road coming into town. It would be nice. So.
You think the sewer line has to be replaced on that street?
No, that was done.
That's brand new?
Yeah, that's all done.
I think, I mean, we paved Franklin, right? I mean, we did that, what, last year?
Franklin, Oak, yeah.
I think we need to eliminate the big trucks going over Franklin, because they're gonna ruin that road. I see way too many trucks going over Franklin, and I think they're gonna, I mean, that's gonna be,
I mean,
that
if
road's
you're
gonna
gonna
be
do that,
damaged
you'd
if
have
we
to
continue
do-
to allow them to do that.
You'd have to do Franklin, Beacon, you'd almost have to do a neighborhood, and it gets dangerous, because once you say no trucks on a certain road, everybody wants no trucks on their road, everybody does, so as soon as you're
Well, I'm
gonna
not
say,
talking
why
about
not
every
Franklin?
road, I'm just
why
talking
this?"
about the
Yeah.
fact that we put so much money into that road, and I
Yeah.
just think it's gonna deteriorate sooner rather than later
Yeah.
if we allow those big trucks to go over. I mean, there's a lot of trucks that go back and forth over that road every day.
Yeah.
It's just a
I
new
mean-
road, so if we could, I'm
Yeah.
not saying eliminate in general.
Do a prohibition by
Yeah,
size.
right.
I think it's a slippery slope. Personally, I think it's a
I
road.
think it's worth looking
the road's
into.
supposed to be. It's the road is made for traffic. We put pavement in there that should withstand the truck traffic, and that's, and then I mean, Berlin Road was done 15 years ago. It needs to be done again. They did eliminate. There is no truck traffic on Berlin Road, and it didn't matter. Yeah, I think weather plays a much bigger role in it than truck traffic. Weather and utilities are the two biggest.
Well, there's an
problems.
abundance amount of truck traffic because of the
Yeah.
landfill, so that's why I'm concerned.
Yeah. I don't think
Worth
any of
looking
the
into.
landfill trucks go over that road. They all come down and go over Union
But they
Street and
do,
up.
I see them.
Yeah, occasionally, but I don't think it's I mean, it could be looked at for sure.
Okay.
Anything can be looked at.
Okay, any other questions for Chris?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. You'll get back to us on that $50,000 for
Yep.
the... See, you've been working all night on these numbers.
Oh, mine's simple. I'm giving you back money every year. I'm not asking for anything.
Yeah. How we doing on the veterans benefits? I might as well ask you that.
Good. You know what? I know I touched on it a little bit last year. I'm comfortable, and I can hit the numbers in a second, but just in the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple, because with Weetabix closing, we do have a couple vets down there that'll temporarily, when their unemployment runs out, may go into Chapter 115, but I'm still comfortable with the, this year I had 220, which, so historically, 2 years ago, I gave back 100,000, and then last year, 80. I think this year, even with what I have left for the rest of this fiscal year, I do have some money. I know they've done the monument over before I started, but there are some people who've still been left off, so I do have money if I can finally get it down to where I think I'm comfortable. I don't want to have, put
You don't want to
names
have
on
to
it.
come back and ask.
Right,
but-
this will be my first time and hopefully my last, but I have money for that, so if I go from 220 down to 200,000, I'm totally comfortable with that. I do need the $500 increase in the miscellaneous, so in October of 17, when I started, I'd file claims, either fax or scan them, and they come up with this website, or database rather, that they wanted us to use, so that was at the middle of that fiscal year, so I stalled, and then this year I stalled. Well, now I can't stall any longer. There's no way
Okay, so the 500's for a special
yeah,
database.
and that'll be every year. I'll just have to pay for that, to rent that. I don't know a lot about computers, but I'm renting something.
Okay. So, I don't have any problems with this budget.
And like today, in the Memorial Day, I'm good with that. I'd be able to purchase the flags and stuff from that, so that's,
We can keep you here all day, but we're pretty,
I'm
We're
giving
pretty
you another
good with this
20,000 back, and we're all happy,
right,
right?
you gave us 20 grand, okay, you can go.
Okay, all right.
We're all set with the budget. Thank you for coming
Thanks,
in.
Joe.
Thank you. Good night.
Do we have a copy of the budget?
That one there?
Okay.
Yeah, it's this one, Jim, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's attached to this one. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look at yours.
Isn't it this one?
Okay,
Right here, Jim.
okay. Matt, go ahead. You're not asking for a lot this year.
Matt, you
Something
need a
wrong?
copy?
No, that's, I have a good idea what's on there. Yeah, we definitely could have asked for more. But I did receive back a quote for raising the valves for the water main. And it came in substantially higher than
How much are we talking about?
$17,700.
To bring the valves up from the hold up to the top?
Just up to the top with a cabinet, and it's definitely a safety issue, for sure. There's a 6-foot pit. It's the original valves to the 3-inch water main. We had Construction Dynamics took a look at it, and with prevailing wage,
You get us a bid on that so we can think about it?
I did get it.
You have this.
Oh, it is in there.
Okay.
Did,
Okay,
Then there was, additionally, we looked at paving the area outside of John's garage because of the mud and the conditions of everybody walking through it. Waiting on that from Lazaro Paving. And,
okay. I don't see anything in his budget that we really have to go over, except for, there's about a $3,000 increase. Up
Are
to-
those your two priorities? Are there?
the water main is, I marked down as being the number one
Right.
priority.
Right.
And then everything else was either a 2 or a 3, but,
So, Russ, does Russ have that in his budget at all for capital improvements to water main, do you know?
he said he could use, this year, he could use, I think he called it safety. There's a life safety budget.
If we have one, I don't know where it is, but
Well,
it
I
sounds good.
don't, you know, I thought he was gonna be here today, but, you know, as far as, that's another thing that I'm not really sure what's
So-
going on
And again,
between.
you feel this is a priority and a safety item? correct?
100%.
You have no trouble putting it on with an article if we so
Absolutely
desire?
not. In fact, Russ had said that it needs to be done. He suggested that, John does not go down in that pit again.
Okay. So they're gonna send you, right?
Said, well, unfortunately, it's a small hole, so I don't think I'll fit down there, but, you
Okay.
know.
We're gonna have to, when we talk to facilities manager, we're gonna talk about this, and if it's a safety issue, I think it's one of the things we should fix first. You
Absolutely.
know, a lot of people have a wish list on what we're gonna spend on the, enterprise fund, so.
I think the other thing is, and I think I've heard it every year I've been here, is about the piping in the house, in the,
Yeah, so actually, I have a call into Whitney about looking at, the pipes froze again
Yeah.
this winter. It was $1,400 last year, so they're, gonna give us a price on what it would take either to repair the existing heating system that's in there, or a solution to keeping the bathrooms, warm enough to stop freezing.
Okay. Well,
makes sense.
okay.
What's it used for in the cold weather?
In the cold weather, the field house,
Yeah,
it's really, it's used as primarily storage of either AYF, leave some things in there, and achieve speed camp. But it really isn't used. This year, we had the hockey rink down there, so we were gonna provide access to the bathroom. But for the most part, it's, you know, the winter's the downtime. I know that there's been preliminary talks with Parks and Rec about maybe trying to do some sort of collaboration on a winter fest at Fuller Field next year, and then it would be nice to have access to the bathrooms, but for the most part, the field house is not used.
So if it was repaired and then drained down each October,
And actually, John has, we've winterized it every year, but it's because whether the brick or whatever the case is, it's not working.
It has to be designed to be winterized. It just, you do a couple of things to it to help it out, but
Yeah,
maybe you'll get that advice from Whitney too, how we can make it so we can blow those lines so there's no water in it.
Right.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm all set with Matt.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
We'll see you.
No, I didn't have that one. I just have it in my other. There's something wrong with my paper?
Is this other, why? It went down?
Because the budget went down. Something's wrong here.
You guys have been asking to save money. We're trying to save money.
Oh, thank God, somebody's thinking about the town.
Well, it's a little deceiving because last year we had to fund a new software program. So that's now in place. So what remains from that and what causes the reduction is the software's paid for, but you still have the maintenance in there.
Okay.
Other than that, there's really not a whole lot to talk about, I don't think. Certainly happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions on his budget. Anybody here?
Just curious, what's the GIS hosting service?
It's the geographical information system, so it's the online mapping that you can see. If you go to the website, you can see that there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And those these are calculated, the correct pay rates?
Those are all correct.
Okay, Dave, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thank you.
I mean, we could keep you here,
Did
but you
I
know.
make the record? Was I the quickest?
Yeah. See, if you asked for $10,000 more, you would have been
I
up
bet I
there for
would've
a
been here for a
while,
while.
you know?
Thanks, Dave. Six twenty-eight, no, 623.
You want to vote on these minutes? Yes. Okay. Okay.
I was south of.
Okay, well, if we're going to change it, we'll contact her, but I think we're all set on that budget. She's more than welcome to come in, but not the most exciting place. Yes.
Excuse me? Okay, yeah.
I have to look at last year's budget to see how close they are. And he's going to request a, if he could present what the vehicle's for, and then, if we have to ask questions. It's nice to ask for a vehicle, but we don't know what he's asking for. So it's to replace the ambulance.
Is it-
Can you ask him to write up why he's asking for the ambulance and how old the one he is, and so we have the information in front of us? And there may be an article we use, but. So the board's gonna request an explanation, a little bit detailed, the rest of it's standard. What else would you like to do, Diane? Okay, we got the minutes of August 28th to review.
Move acceptance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Approved. Schools requested a time for their budget, but I'm gonna wait a week or so and then set up something. I'd also like to hear from the facilities manager, facilities director, and see what's going on there. They do have a blueprint.
He's working on it, I was talking to him earlier.
So I intend to meet with him before he meets with the committee, just to get an idea where he's going with it. Problem I foresee is that he's gonna ask for a lot of money, so that he has a fund to finance things, and that's not what we've done in the past, so we're gonna have to look at that.
I didn't hear the last part. Who's gonna ask? for
He's
more?
probably, if
Oh,
I was a
us?
facilities manager,
Yeah.
yeah, he would ask to combine all these budgets, he might
Mm-hmm.
ask for some additional people, and he might ask for a fund to do repairs. And I don't know how much control we wanna give him right away,
Mm-hmm.
so we're gonna have to look at that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Again, it's gonna be one of the biggest, it's gonna be a larger department, you know, it's not, it's gonna be, I don't even have a guess now, but. Two minutes?
See the Parks and Rec census, did you get that?
In terms of the number of programs that they run? Yeah, I did.
It's amazing.
I have it in there. Yeah, I got it the other day.
It's like somebody's doing their paperwork. Here it is, 2 years, yeah. Different than,
Huh?
little different than 20 years ago.
I'll say.
It's nice to see people again. I was talking to somebody between the library and the Parks and Rec on the young people moving into town. They're at the library once a week, twice a
Are they?
week. Yeah, but these hands-on kids things and stuff like that. In the summertime, they migrate down to Parks and Rec.
Yeah, they do they have a lot of programs.
And this, and the other, I get an email once a week.
Oh, you do?
Actually, 2 times on the same day, because Arlene's on there and I'm on there, so it bangs it into us. And, sure, what they were going on,
When is she leaving?
Middle of April, I think. She's, her husband has a job up
Are
in
you an agent? Yeah.
Looks like I'm next.
Good job.
Good, how you doing?
Did you revise it, or do I have the right one? No, it's a different one.
Good, John. Good. Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Bottom line's different. Bottom line's different.
You can just give us a quick synopsis of your budget?
Who can say their budget's down 800 grand, you know?
What went off debt service to make this adjustment? So-
I know. So, starting with salary, it's a 4-person operation, the treasurer collector's office, obviously. Come in with my level funded and level service numbers. Miscellaneous expense is, we're holding the line at the same amount we had last year, which I think is adequate. You know me, Jim, I'm not looking for anything extra, I just want to live within my means.
Thank God we have somebody thinking that way.
Yeah. The debt is, I think the major one that came off was the high school, I think was paid off. So the principal and interest are obviously down. As far as any future borrowing, we've got some authorizations from 17 and 18 that we're working out the final numbers, what we're gonna ban. So I think the short-term interest we have there, 25 grand, should cover, because we're not doing any major borrowing. So that should be adequate. The health insurance is based on the June 1, 19 increases, which are 9.5% on the Fallon and 5.5% on the other 2 plans. And it's based on the current enrollment. Medicare tax is based on exactly what it was in calendar year 2018. That's it.
You know, don't see that large an increase in insurance this year. You know, what's it up, 100,
Going up every year, as you know.
140?
We did take it out to market last year and brought it to Blue Cross just to see if the numbers are in line, and they were almost identical. Their quote was almost identical to what we're paying. So this is what's out there.
Okay. And again, that debt service is really down $850,000 and $850 actually. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for John?
Nope, I'm good.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
And I know you sent me the debt schedule, I'll take a look at it too, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
thank
back
you.
up those numbers.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
John.
thanks a
Thanks for
lot.
coming in. Budget looks better all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's a big number.
That's a big, real big number.
Talk to Diane.
Medicare, health insurance, or
No, 9% of Fallon is a big number, increase.
Yeah, we have 2 big numbers there. One is Chapter 70 money coming in, and that number right there. Okay.
Medicare Advantage, children's.
Yeah.
Diane, how many more budgets do we have coming in next week?
How much is it cost you?
250 a month.
Does it?
And they said some different programs, and there was another one, Medicare, and it was $63. So,
We'll have a few.
This is nothing, this is just trying to eliminate that plan. And I said, I think the
Okay, well,
Really?
prescriptions may be $2.
okay, well, let's see if we can organize the rest of them to come in. I guess it's time, probably after next week, should, you know, what we've done in the past is the budget to school with a starting number and then work our way around. See, I see our problems to the budget being threefold. One is the schools ask for 4.5%. I mean, our usual number's been 3. We have to see what we're gonna start with them. Police and fire overtime have been outrageously under budget. We need to correct that. And we have to look at our capital improvement list, start making a list of what we're gonna use free cash for those things, and then see where we end up. I mean, a 4% increase in any budget's a large increase. But I think that, in those 3 large departments, we're gonna look at least 4%. So the discussion will be next week is, what do you think we should start with for the school? Then we'll look at police and fire again and see what's actually budgetary or capital improvements and pull those out. And then we'll start working on each departments. I'll try to put something together. Out of our departments, there's 2 or 3 that, the police, fire, you know, that really have changes. Even the council on aging at 5%, they took 1.5 last year. I can live with that, and she's trying to change things up. So what we'll do is go through our budgets a little bit tomorrow and next week, talk about the school, get a percentage in there, then rough it up. Then start going through department at department. So first, we'll get an outline, say, hey, maybe the school's 4%, maybe it's 3.5, maybe it's 4.5, let's look. Then we'll go to police and fire and say, hey, what's capital improvements, let's pull those out. And then what can we increase it to get them closer? I mean, and then we'll put that on a piece of paper, and then we'll come and go by budget and go over it. We still have local revenues that are not tied down. And again, we've got to review the debt service and everything else, but that's how we're going to start.
All right.
Okay.
The school has already published a budget. Did you get a copy of that now?
Well, we know they asked for 4.5%, so we can go with that and make a decision. I mean, if we gave everybody everything we wanted, then we would have no money left for anything. We'd be borrowing. So
But do we have a copy of the school budget yet?
we had,
I got it today when I was at the meeting. I sent it.
Okay.
See it on,
Great, thanks.
but again, we got to start planning what we think we can do. And then we can go over these things again once we have some more firmer numbers.
Yeah, I'd just like to see what they're asking for.
Okay, well, you'll have the budget next week, or you'll have it in your email by Friday. How's that sound? Okay?
Fine,
Whoopee.
just asking.
The state just approved another 200 million for the schools. I don't know what that boils down to for Clinton.
Well, you know, I've always viewed state aid as state aid. I don't care what they call it. They can call it Chapter 70 or whatever else, but, I mean, it comes down to the fact that we're gonna budget the best way we see fit based on the needs of the town and the best utilization of money. So we're gonna work that way. Anything else? So I will get everybody a copy of the school budget. Please review the budgets. We're gonna kinda go over them and look at police and fire in particular. And, you know, see if we pull out capital improvements, get to 4%, and then maybe add something to overtime. So that's what I'm thinking in my head, but, you know, let's look at it and see what happens.
The school department hasn't gone to the selectmen yet, have they?
We have heard from the selectmen that we usually have the joint meeting here, and that may be 2 weeks away, but we'll decide that next Tuesday night. And again, I'm gonna try to get it just from the facilities manager. I'm gonna go sit down and talk to him, see where he's going on the budget a little bit, so I can bring something back to you. I mean, I assume he has some kind of outline, at least that's my understanding. I don't wanna get an idea.
Yeah.
Usually, like when the Council on Aging moved into their building, we try to make sure they had enough funding to do it right, and I think that's what we have to do. Now, the question is, how much funding is that gonna be, and can we make it work in the budget?
Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
So when's the next meeting?
Next Tuesday.
Any other time?
5:45, okay with everybody?
No, 6:40.
Yep.
Yeah.
5:45. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Everybody knows.
So moved.
Bye. See you
Mike, you gotta
later.
teach me all that stuff, okay?